Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Labor is highlighting the rising cost of living many Tasmanians are facing in the lead up to the election. Launceston local Stuart Mansfield is being evicted from his current rental and is struggling to find housing.
I've contacted Housing Connect to try and get some housing, but the list is very long, 72 weeks minimum. I'll be living in my car.
Here in Launceston, an increase of 24.3% in housing prices over the last year, be it rent, be it housing affordability, be it petrol, be it groceries. We are seeing the crunch in the cost of living happening everywhere.
Labor is promising 30,000 units will be built around the country through the Housing Australia Future Fund, while the Liberals have promised $2 billion in financing for social and affordable dwellings. Tonight we take a look at the state's largest seat in our 3-part series of Tasmania's key electorates. The Liberals are eyeing off Lions to secure a 4th election win, but some predict Labor's comfortable margin will be hard to swing.
Encompassing 36,000 square kilometres, Lions is not only the state's largest seat, but one of 3 electorates in play this election. Secured by Labor's Brian Mitchell in 2016 after one term in blue, the former political staffer is confident but not complacent ahead of polling day.
You're always in the lap of the voters, and you just got to work hard. And that's what I've done for 6 years as the local member.
His biggest competition is 5th-generation Lions resident and Liberal candidate Susie Bauer.
There's just some great people in our communities, great businesses, and I want to be able to help them achieve what they want to achieve.
Front and centre of Labor's agenda is cheaper childcare and cost of living, while the Liberals' catch cry is a strong economy and job creation. Both are spending the final days of the campaign wooing voters, trading barbs over who has spent more time speaking to constituents.
Susie Bauer hasn't been at 3 community candidate forums. I've made myself available to those. Unfortunately, Susie hasn't presented at any of them.
There was only 2 forums I didn't attend, and I'd already been to those particular community groups before.
Back in 2019, the Coalition's election hopes were dashed and their candidate ditched when racist social media posts surfaced at the 11th hour. 3 years on, it's Brian Mitchell's past that's come back to bite his chances, deleting his Twitter account after inappropriate comments about women were dug up from 2011. Political analyst Richard Herr isn't convinced it will hurt the sitting member's profile.
Will the public actually regard tweets as a fatal flaw, or do they see it as a part of a dirty tricks campaign?
Lions is typically a safe seat for incumbents, and Brian Mitchell holds it on a comfortable 5.2% margin. As opposed to the more conservative electorates of Bass and Braddon, some predict it could be hard for the Liberals to win the state's largest seat this time around.
If the Liberals were to pick up Lions, it would be a very big deal, both in terms of the personalities involved as well as the way the polls have been projecting it.
The pair will have 2 more days to convince voters. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
Another 2 deaths have been added to the state's climbing COVID toll, taking the number of Tasmanian lives lost since the start of the pandemic to 69. 1,076 new infections were recorded overnight, a slight drop on yesterday's figures. 43 people are currently in hospital with COVID. 2 patients are being treated in intensive care. Some of Tasmania's biggest events can now forge ahead, with density and capacity restrictions about to be scrapped. After months of calling for action, several industries have welcomed the chance to finally get back to business.
While emerging from the pandemic cautiously, the challenges still lie ahead for Tasmanian venues.
I wish we had an answer on to where we'll get back to. I would suspect it's going to be another 12 months until we get back to what we call normality.
But the latest move to do away with density and capacity restrictions is something they believe will help speed up financial recovery.
It's a great announcement for us, and to have some consistent rules across the state now.
The state's small business body has been behind the push to scrap the regulations for some time.
At last we're getting rid of some of the red tape, some of the rules and some of the confusion about what can you do and what can't you do. So I think this will just overall enhance everybody's state of mind.
They're not alone in breathing a sigh of relief as event organisers welcome the chance to operate without crowd limits.
It's going to mean that it's a great value for money event, not only for the patrons coming along, but also for the stall holders. And it gives us confidence now to really go out and market the event to say Festivali is back.
The move also brings certainty for agricultural shows who can finally plan ahead.
The 4 or 5 big ones really needed that 5,000 cap removed because that goes straight to the heart of our viability. And for the little shows, the fact that they don't have to lodge a COVID plan anymore for approval removes a level of red tape.
From midnight tomorrow, the rules will officially be scrapped, but health officials say some businesses might opt to keep their own restrictions in place for the safety of their staff. A timely change as the iconic Dark Mofo Festival prepares to take over all corners of the state.
And it sort of brings just a little bit of life to Hobart in general after that, so people tend to realise that, hey, we can come out in the cold and the dark.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmanian News.
A human bone belonging to a missing Tasmanian has been found 7 months after a boating tragedy involving Wynyard man Thomas Courteau. Police scoured waters off Table Cape after a bone was located by a recreational diver last month. DNA testing later confirming it belongs to the 26-year-old. The bodies of Brianna Thomas and Isaiah Dixon were found days after their boat vanished in October. A Tasmania police camera has captured the moment a bushwalker was winched to safety after being stranded in the Lake Rona area. The man in his 30s was trapped for more than 24 hours due to rising waters. There were concerns for his welfare when he didn't return as scheduled on Tuesday. Ground crews were in contact with the man until weather conditions permitted a safe rescue. Nurses across the state have begun industrial action over safe staffing and workloads. Union members say the Tasmanian government has failed to address their concerns 5 months after calling for solutions in the Industrial Commission. They're handing out postcards to patients and their families to be forwarded to the Premier. They haven't ruled out escalating action with stop work meetings and bans on double shifts on the cards. Tasport has launched legal action against the owners of the cement carrier Goliath that crashed into 2 tugs in Devonport earlier this year. An operation is currently underway to remove the wrecks after they sank to the bottom of the Mersey in January. The port's wharf was also badly damaged in the collision. Tasport says it won't progress federal court proceedings unless necessary and hopes to reach a settlement with Goliath's owner, CSL Australia. Tasmania's Cancer Council has unveiled its new Find Cancer Early campaign. Videos are paying tribute to 3 local survivors in an attempt to bring down the state's high cancer statistics.
It's a disease that doesn't discriminate. Nearly 10 Tasmanians are diagnosed with cancer every single day. In 2019, Noella Buchanan competed in the World Triathlon Championships and she never imagined she'd be next.
If you are incredibly fit, you may still carry something inside that you can't see.
Doctors diagnosed her with stage 1 colon cancer, saying the growth had been forming for an entire decade.
It came as a complete shock to me.
Noella made a complete recovery thanks to early detection and interventional surgery. She's now sharing her story in a new campaign by the Cancer Council.
Regret doesn't change the outcome of your cancer diagnosis or your treatment plan, but early detection does.
2 other local survivors also feature in the videos, which are hoped to raise awareness and target Tasmanians who are not inclined to get themselves tested.
And that could end up being a late stage diagnosis. People don't like the bowel cancer kit. A lot of people ignore it and told me stories that it's been in the drawer for a long time. And that's the very thing that can save your life.
Thanks to early detection and crucial funding for research, 68% of Australian cancer sufferers will survive 5 years after being diagnosed. Experts are urging Tasmanians to see their doctor if they notice any bodily changes before it's too late. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmanian News.
And the RACT is urging motorists to conduct frequent car safety checks as we drive towards the end of National Road Safety Week. Officials say fixing issues such as worn tyres, broken lights and faulty seatbelts can be the difference between life and death.
Drive always to the conditions. Now Now that can be particularly difficult if you've got a headlight out, for example, and you're in fog or rain on a slippery road.
Tasmania has already recorded 26 road fatalities this year, more than double the same time last year.
Glenorchy's reserve side is replenished and good to go after forfeiting for the second time last weekend. The club says injuries and COVID have caused the shortage of players, denying work commitments and having to head north were to blame.
Made numerous amounts of phone calls and unfortunately it's a bit hard to get some of the local boys to jump on a bus at 6:30 and travel to North Lonnie, but we really want to do that. I think, you know, travelling's part and parcel of the game.
And for only the second time in the league's history, the TSL will host a curtain raiser for an AFL match. North Launceston and Lauderdale will run out onto UTAS Stadium before the Hawthorn-Brisbane game on Sunday at the bright and early time of 11 a.m.
Even though we might be kicking the dew off, which might be new to a few boys, but yeah, it'd be good, it'd be exciting.
Brad Cox-Goodger made his debut in the first curtain raiser in 2009 when North Launceston beat South Launceston ahead of an Anzac Day clash between the Hawks and the Eagles. Also overnight, Ariane Titmus missed out on qualifying for the Commonwealth Games 100 metres freestyle after finishing 5th in last night's final. She'll still have a chance though in the 200 and 400 metre events. And Hobart's Matilda Smith is still in with a shot at making the Games, qualifying for the final of tonight's 50 metres breaststroke after finishing outside the cut-off in last night's 100 metres breaststroke final. The Giants are into the top 4 of the Super Netball competition. Trailing Collingwood by 6 points at half-time, the Giants lifted in the third quarter, outscoring the Magpies 24-10 at the Silverdome. The final margin was 9 points.
Straight away! Because Joe Harden, we said, if they're up, wowee team, wowee.
And Hobart's Nathan Earl has won the first stage of the Tour of Japan. Riding for Japanese team Ukyo, Earl conquered the 120-kilometre stage, crossing the line flanked by flag-waving fans.
It's just fantastic to be in Japan finally after some years of no travel with the pandemic. But today to be here is very special.
Fellow Aussie and teammate Ben Dybel finished second. There are 4 stages on the tour.
Good evening. Hobart 14 degrees today. Launceston, Devonport, Lowhead and St Helens the highest with 17. Temperatures close to average. Strawn, Friendly Beaches and the Islands all 15. Grove 13. Lyawini warming up from yesterday to reach 6 degrees today. Most of the clear sky over the northeast and central parts of the state. Extensive cloud over the west, far south and central regions. More cloud sits over South Australia and parts of surrounding states, convective cloud over far north and coastal Queensland. Tomorrow a strong high to our west pushes a ridge over us and to the north. A trough sits over the Western Bight and more over North Queensland. Variable winds over the north but to 10 to 20 knot southwesterlies over the south and east, lighter winds inland. Strong wind warning from Wineglass Bay to South East Cape, and we have a frost warning for the central north, the northeast and Midlands. So with that information, I guess we can expect a cold night. Hobart not so much, 7 overnight, 14 tomorrow. Huonville 14 as well, cool for Campania, 14 the top. 0 for Launceston, early frost, sunny afternoon, 15 the high, mostly sunny for Devonport, same number, and 14 the top for Georgetown. Burnie mostly sunny and 14, 13 the high for Strawn, sunny for Wynyard, 15 the maximum. St Helens tomorrow looking at 14 degrees and mostly sunny, same for Swansea, 13 the top for Port Arthur, the chance of a shower there. Now the weekend is looking okay too. Fine, mostly sunny weather on Saturday, partly cloudy conditions but fine again statewide on Sunday, and on Monday fine after a morning frost and a possible light shower over the far south. A shower or 2 in Perth, a sunny 18 in Adelaide, partly cloudy for Melbourne and Canberra, showers over Sydney and Brisbane. Cloudy in Hobart, 10 at the moment, 10 and clear in Launceston, fine in Devonport 2 and 9 degrees. What about that news tonight, Kim, that Mercedes are recalling those vehicles that were manufactured between 2005 and 2013, the ML, MG and the R-Class, all scrapped. Lucky you've got the latest and most expensive model.
I have nothing to say. I don't. I'd like one. And that is your news for this evening. Thanks for your company. Good night.